I think. Okay, so we'll call the Strategic Plan Committee of the Douglas Library January 10th meeting to order. At 5 p.m. And our Emily Sear, Gail Richmond, Brenda Kelleher, Donna Lanza, and Marion Spalding, our board clerk. And the first item on the agenda is the secretary's minutes from November 8th, 2021 meeting. So is there a motion to accept those minutes as presented?
I'll make the motion, Donna.
Okay, I will second the motion. And are there any concerns with the minutes? Any changes, additions, deletions, any changes? Okay, so we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye, and just raise your hand so we can see that everybody is on. Any opposed or any abstentions? So the motion passes unanimously. Marion, thank you. Here under old business, we have the mission and vision statement, and that is tabled until after we do more of our work. I'm going to just flip-flop the next couple of items because I think it probably makes more sense for us to talk about the strategic plan formatting proposal before we talk about the focus group. Because there is, Kevin's kind of outlining a plan for us moving forward. But before we do that, well, you know what? Well, let's do that. We're going to move down to agenda item number 4.2, because hopefully Peter will join us and he can take part in the meeting time discussion because I want everybody involved. So I'm going to share my screen and play the video that Kevin left for us. I don't know if everybody had a chance to view that, but I'll just play that so we can all see it. And if you can't see it or hear it, just kind of let me know, because like I said, I'm new to the Zoom format. So let me share the screen. And
Hi, sorry that I'm not able to be there with you tonight. Ideally, I would have liked to go over some of the stuff while I was here so I could participate in the discussions and answer questions as they came up, but I thought it was more important to get these ideas out in front of you sooner so we're not dragging the process out longer than it needs to be. So I've had a couple of ideas over the past month that I put together in a PowerPoint to restructure how we are looking at the strategic plan. This is just a suggestion. I love to hear ideas and feedback. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, we've got the existing structure that we can fall back upon as well. So without too much further ado, I'm going to open up my PowerPoint. And I've got to share my screen with you. Okay. So I'm going to rush through this a little bit. We don't need to go over every point in that much detail. A lot of it is review, but I wanted to be able, to the best of my ability, illustrate my thought process for how I got where I ended up. I just came to do a list of, potential new goals to work underneath. I don't think that would be well received. So introduction, these are just some ideas that what we would want, what anybody wants to accomplish with this strategic plan in general. Feel free to read through these later on, but I'm not going to go over them now. I've included the slides as a part of your packet, so you can look at some of the stuff in more detail if you'd like, but I don't want to take up that much time. So these are just some of the first steps in forming a strategic plan. We've gone through and done most of these already. First thing would be define the mission and vision statements, and then determine the library's values based upon those mission and vision statements. We can then take those values and then reframe them as goals for the library. And then we can take the smaller goals, the goals that we gather from the public and from our own ideas, and they should all neatly assign underneath one of the categories so that we are addressing all of the values that we have, that we want to, and not just kind of loading all of our efforts on maybe one part of our vision or mission and neglecting the rest. Got a copy of the mission statement here. Like we've discussed this already, and also a copy of the vision statement. So I have a pitch for altering the vision statement slightly. I'd like to remove the word diverse and replace it with the word inclusive. And then also potentially remove the word innovative from in front of innovative technologies. So my thinking is this. So we can't really create a diverse environment. That would be if we were to create a diverse environment, we would, almost forcibly get a bunch of people together, place them in a room, and say this is a diverse environment. What we can do is we can create an inclusive environment that will attract a diverse range of users. So I think it's just a little more accurate and a little more accurate to what we're trying to do. My thought with the word innovative is that it's just unnecessary. We don't have an adjective in front of, well, we have ever evolved. We don't call our collections innovative or our services innovative, even though we strive for them to be just as innovative as our technologies. I'm also a little concerned that it frames technology as being novel and not a core part of our services, which it absolutely is. It's not detrimental. Just to me, when I was looking at it, I was thinking, well, why are technologies innovative but not our services? I think they all are, and maybe if they all are, it just doesn't need to be stated right here. So, suggestion. So now we're looking to pull values out of that mission statement and vision statement. So values answer what the library stands for, what behaviors do we value, how will the library conduct its activities in order to achieve the mission and vision, and how the library treats members of its organization and the community. So slightly different, but very much related to what the mission and vision statement already do. So what I've done here is I've taken a look at the text of the mission statement and the text of the vision statement, and I've pulled some key passages and I've assigned values to those key passages. So for example, from the mission statement, all members of the Hebron community need the values that says that we think are important, are accessibility, the collection, and also intellectual freedom, both making everything available just as easy to access, but also lots of different ideas to cover the spectrum of the interests of the community. State of the art, quality, so just that our services, everything that we offer should be as high quality as possible. Preserving records entrusted to the library. Preservation is, of course, a value that is important to the library. We're not a university library, but we still believe in preserving particularly our unique records, but it's important for us to protect and preserve all of the materials that we have here. And also trustworthiness, just because the community needs to be able to trust that we are doing the job that we say we are doing to the best of our ability. So I think we have that trust, but it's important that we maintain it. Looking at the vision statement now, an integral part of our community. So the library is indispensable. Also, I took this to mean that we value social responsibility, because we can't be an integral part of the community without also recognizing that we're a member of the community and that all of our actions affect our neighbors and other businesses in the area. And we need to think about how all the pieces fit together if we're going to be an integral part of the community. It doesn't just mean being very good at our job and people caring about us. Welcoming a diverse environment, or if we switch that out, losing my train of thought here. But so welcoming and diverse environment, to me, that's emotional safety. So right now in the current plan, there's a little bit of, I think, a disconnect with how we interpret safe space, which is one of the committees underneath one of the overarching goals, to make the library a safe space. So a safe space can be a space where all ideas are welcome, where all types of people are welcome. It's an inclusive environment, but it can also mean a place that is just literally physically safe. The building can be in good shape. We have proper security protocols, and that we have good relationship with first responders. So I want to separate those two out a little bit and say that emotional safety is a value of ours, but also physical safety. And then ever evolving, we're always improving. We're always trying to figure out a way to do what we're doing more and better. Some other values that I pulled from the ALA website, they have a list of values under public libraries. So privacy, which of course we value the privacy of our patrons. Education and lifelong learning, we do make that explicit in the mission and vision statement, but we very much value the idea of educating and the idea of being able to educate yourself at all stages of your life. Fiscal sustainability, I think that fits on here because we have limited resources. We will always have limited resources, and we owe it to the people that live in Hebron to use those resources wisely and to be sustainable. We're not looking to frivolously spend the funds that we have. We want to spend them as well as possible. Democracy, I included on there because one of our very reasons for existence is that the democracy functions best with a well-educated public. And that's partly why we're here and why, as a society, we've decided that it's important to make information, quality information freely available to all members of society. So we're a piece that makes democracy work, and therefore we value it. And then innovation, finally, it's similar to always improving, but maybe there's a shade of difference there. Looking for new ways to serve as well as better ways to serve. So this list can absolutely be added to. Things can be tweaked for sure. This is just what I came up with looking through. So I took those goals and I reframed them as 4 values. So the first, or I took those values and I reframed them as 4 goals. So goal number 1, the Douglas Library is a welcoming and inclusive environment in which to pursue lifelong learning. Just to define that a little bit better, a welcoming and inclusive environment provides equitable access to information from a diverse collection of sources and creators in an emotionally safe environment. And then I've listed some values underneath that that this goal addresses. Moving on to goal 2, the Douglas Library is an integral part of the Hebron community, almost directly from the vision statement. So an integral member of the community is an active participant in local events and discussions that makes its trusted services accessible to its members and has a desire to build upon and improve society. A couple of values as well underneath there. We're going to get back to those after we read those. Value or goal number 3, the Douglas Library is a safe environment in which to pursue lifelong learning. So it's a physically safe environment. So a physically safe environment is a well-maintained facility with appropriate security protocols and policies to protect the well-beings of its patrons in the collection. So goal 1 addresses inclusion and and emotional well-being. Goal 3 addresses physical well-being. So they're separated out a little more clearly here. And finally, goal 4, the Douglas Library provides ever-evolving services, collections, and technologies to its users. An ever-evolving library ensures that patrons will have access to innovative services that are continually being reevaluated to ensure that they are high quality, cost-effective, and appropriate for the community. Okay. So those are our 4 values. Heading back to our core goals, heading back to our values page, I've color-coded each of the values that was here in association with the goal that addresses it. A couple of them, there's some overlap, which of course there's going to be, but there's also each value, each goal, there are unique goals for each value. There's nothing that is made completely out of overlap, or else, in my opinion, it would be something that could be done away with. So everything that we listed before has been covered. If we add more to it, we would need to tweak these goals a little bit to make sure that whatever it is fit under the goals that we already have, or we would add something else to make sure that we were doing what we wanted it to do. So this just restates our goals as I listed in the previous pages. I've bolded one word in each of the goals just as a shorthand. So welcoming, integral, safe, and ever evolving. When you put those together, it makes the acronym WISE, which is appropriate, being that we're a library, and also that we are creating a plan that we hope will help us to make wise decisions over the next 5 years. So I think it's kind of a cute way of shorthand for what we're trying to do to communicate to the public. So those are the goals. That would be the reframing of the plan. I'm going to just quickly look through what it looks like when we put achievable and measurable goals underneath these broad heading goals, and just give you a quick look of how the rest of this process would work if we used this format. So we would take those broad goals, we make them achievable by assigning sub goals to each categories. Those are the ones that we pulled from the survey, and that when we do the talk back session, anything that we gather from the public there, that we've gathered from our own discussions with each other, we would take those smaller goals and then fit them underneath the larger goals as they best fit. And at this point, nothing's been prioritized or culled or adjusted for feasibility. We're just kind of blue skying it at this point still. So I've gone through what we currently had listed, and I've organized them onto the goals. I'm not going over them now because I don't want to take all night, but feel free to look at it in your packet if you'd like to. These goals, I've restated some of them to be more measurable and achievable. So that's what a good goal is. Measurable and achievable. A goal isn't increase the number of library card holders in Hebron. It's increase the number of library card holders in Hebron by 10%. I've done that with some of them, but not all of them. A few of them are still softer and need to be hardened a little bit for us. So here's integral, safe, and evolving. There's a fair amount under each goal. So it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't look like we're only focusing on one part of the spectrum. We're looking at all the values that we want to. So next steps, just kind of where we are right now, would be hosting the public forum, if necessary, to gather further information. Once we have all the information that we're gathering, which I think the public forum would be the end of that information gathering, we would then finalize all the goals under each category, make sure that the goals are stated to be measurable and achievable, and then we go about evaluating each goal, ranking its importance, and then if necessary, making cuts to the list. So what we're left with is just what we actually will be working on over the next few years. So that's basically where I'm going to stop. The rest of the presentation runs through how to evaluate.
Okay, I think I stopped sharing. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. So that was interesting. I was sharing my screen of Kevin sharing his screen. It was, so I think Kevin did a great job with giving us a path. I feel like we were starting to spin our wheels a little bit. And I think he's giving us a good place to work from. And I do think it needs a little bit of tweaking, but what are your thoughts? Does anybody have any feelings one way or the other on what Kevin is proposing?
Don, I would agree with you. I think he did a very good job. And I think that's going to help guide us to move this process along and bring it to closure. I think good job.
Okay, good. Hi, Peter. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts? Okay, so if there are no other thoughts, are we can we have agreement that we would like to use this outline to move forward? I see some nodding. Okay, so I think, you know, as Kevin stated, then he would kind of tighten it up a little bit, clean it up, and we'll bring it back for our next meeting and start working on it. Everybody has the link to it in the email if you need to rewatch it. And I know in the agenda package that he sent out, there's the physical slides. So if you have any suggestions or anything that you want Kevin to add or change, if you want to send that information into him in the meantime, I think that would be great, because I think we can only build upon it. I think it's definitely a good place for us to start. So I'll let Kevin know when he returns from vacation that we would like to use this format moving forward. So that's great. So we'll
Donna,
just.
Can I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you need a consensus from us, or do you have the consensus? Were you able to see that on your screen?
I saw that. We could take a quick vote if you think that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. I think moving forward, it would be appropriate.
Okay.
And
right.
either a vote or just a simple consensus that we all are in agreement that this is the way to go with what Kevin and you have done here.
Okay, Peter, do you want to propose a motion, a simple motion?
Sure, I'll propose a motion that we continue to build on the presentation that we saw tonight that you and Kevin had worked on, and we use it as the basis, the foundation for moving forward.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I will second that.
Thank you.
Hi, Gail.
Hi, Peter.
Marion, you've got the motion, right? You're good?
Yes, I have continued to build on the presentation and use as a basis for a foundation for moving forward.
Great. Okay, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so Marion, the motion passes unanimously.
Got it. Thank you, Donna.
So we're just gonna, I want to use our time wisely. Like to go back up to item number 3, 2, and talk about the focus group. Now that we know how we're going to proceed with establishing our plan. I feel it is important to at least hold one focus group that's open to the general community. We got a lot of good input from the survey results, but there's a group of people out there that don't do surveys, don't do computer, and we had talked about doing an in-person focus group. We're trying not to hold in-person meetings now with the spike in COVID. So I think if we did a focus group, it would probably have to be virtual, which is, maybe not targeting the people that we would be hoping to get if we were meeting in person. But that is, right now, the town manager this morning gave the direction that we should not be holding in-person meetings if at all possible. So I do think we should go ahead and schedule at least one focus group, virtual focus group. It doesn't give us much flexibility and anonymity if people want to, like if we did an in-person focus group, we could do like a vision board and have people submitting different thoughts and, on paper and not really having to put their name to it if they didn't want to. But I think a focus group would be a good move. At least we could say that we reached out and tried every avenue to get input. So Kevin asked if we could come up with a couple of dates to do this. And I think we have one virtually, and if we get any input and if the infection rate improves, we could try to squeeze in an in-person focus group maybe early in the spring before we finish our work. Does anybody have any dates they would like to suggest?
The next meeting is February 14th, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it needs to be after that.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely essential that we have one and just make sure we advertise it all over the place.
Right. Right.
When townspeople are interested in something, they show up, virtual or not, so.
So do you want to do it the week after the week, like the Monday after our next meeting?
That would be the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I going to be?
February
Oh, that's
20th.
President's Day, Donna.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What, do
So
the
the
presidents want to come?
Yeah, there you go, Peter. So then we have the 28th.
Yeah, and we got to get it done before the end of February because then we're into budget.
Right. That was my thought.
Okay, why don't we tentatively schedule it for February 28th? I think 7 p.m. would be good, and in a virtual format, and I'll give that date to Kevin. And if there's if there's a problem with that, we'll regroup.
Yeah, I have EDC that night, but that's okay. I'm not sure I was going to come to the virtual forum anyway because of anonymity. I can't even say it. If somebody shows up virtually, let them be there and let them speak, and we don't need to be there to hear them as long as somebody from the library, like Kevin, for example, is there,
Right.
and we're taking recording, then that's good. Just my thought.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any thoughts on the focus group? Everybody's so quiet tonight. All right. The meeting time. So the meeting time for these meetings, I think that 5 o'clock is a little difficult for people. When we first set this time, we thought we were going to be meeting in person before the board meetings. So is 6 o'clock better? Is another night better? Or
Donna, another night, given the number of meetings I have in any week, the number of meetings you have, just help. 6 o'clock, as long as our agenda is tight, we can be out for our 7 o'clock meetings. That's,
or 5:30
I was just gonna
Gives
say,
us
how
a
about
little bit-
5:30?
gives us a little bit of a buffer.
How does
Emily-
that sit
Emily
with
or
Emily
Brenda?
with the little kids at home?
5:30 would be better than 5 for me.
5:30? Yeah.
It would be better for me too.
And Peter, how does that work for you?
Yeah,
I
that'll
know-
probably be better, Donna. Yes.
Okay, so let's switch it to 5:30. And that gives us, then we won't feel that we're being rushed. But it's better than 5 o'clock, definitely. So I think that's it for our agenda items, unless anybody had anything specific they wanted to talk about in this, the strategic plan format. If there was anything you saw in the presentation that you wanted to discuss. I think he hit on all our items. So any other new business? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And
You.
we
Thank you,
will
Donna.
see some of you in a little bit. And we'll see some of you next month. Thank you very much.
Take
Good night.
care. Be
Bye-bye.
safe.
Bye.
Donna, do we have a
Yeah.
motion to adjourn?
Oh, I'll make
Oh.
that motion, Marion.
Thank you, Gail.
I'll second Gail's motion.
Thanks, Miriam. All in
catch.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion
5:34.
passes unanimously. Thank you.
Good night.
What the? Good night.
Night, everyone. Except I got another meeting.
I know. Bye.